Alright, hello everyone. My name is Chuck Yeager, and today I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about getting started with Falcon BMS 4.32. So the first thing you need to know is you need to know how and where to get the game. So you get the game from Benchmark Sims, and the first thing you need to do to get the actual game from them is you need to go to their website. So you're going to open up your browser here, and you're going to go to Google, and you type in Benchmark Sims. And it should be the first link in the page, benchmarksims.org. And you'll follow this link, and then you'll get to this lovely website here. And unfortunately, to use all of the services on the website, including the download section, you need to create a login. So I've already made one, so I don't need to do that. But first thing you get here is you're going to go to the top right, and you're going to click login, and you're going to give them their email and everything, and make a login for the website. And once you've done that, you're going to go to the download section that you just now gained access to. And you're going to find the thread titled Falcon BMS 4.32 Full Installer. And you're going to click on this guy. Alrighty, and you no longer, in the past, you had to do this weird thing where you applied patches to the installer and then installed the game. You don't have to do any of that anymore. All you have to do is download this Falcon 4 or Falcon BMS setup either through torrent or one of these mirrors, and you just run the setup and the game will install it, and you don't have to worry about any of the other stuff that you had to do in the past. So I've already downloaded this, and once you download it, you'll get a folder that looks like this, and you'll just run the setup.exe in here. I'm not going to run this because I already have the game installed and I can't install two versions over each other. But one thing to note, it's pretty straightforward. You just show it where, like any other game you install, you just show it where to go. But Falcon BMS is a mod for the original Falcon 4 game. So to install Falcon BMS, you have to have purchased the original Falcon 4. And how they check that they do that, how they check that you've bought the original Falcon 4 is during setup it'll ask you to point it towards this original Falcon 4 exe that came with the original game. If you need help on instructions on how to obtain a Falcon 4 exe through a proper channel, you can PM me at or personal message me at my YouTube address here, or at my Reddit username, Chuck_Yeager, which is spelled just the same way as my user one, and I can help you out on how to get a Falcon 4 exe through the proper channels. And with that, that is how you install the game. And next we'll actually go through to some of the important things you need to know about actually using the F-16. Alrighty, now that you've installed the game, we're going to go over some of the setup and configuration options you have with BMS. So when you first start up the game, you'll get this little menu here, and the first one will actually launch the game, but underneath of that there's a little configuration button you can click here, and if you go in here you'll see you have all of these options for changing all sorts of different things about how the game runs. For now I would leave most of this stuff as default, but if you start playing the game and you find something you don't like for example you don't like your field of view, you can come back here and change your field of view to be something else. And any other kind of tweaks and things like that you want to change about the game is all done back here through the Falcon BMS config. And the next thing that's kind of important to talk about here is this third button will direct you to all of the manuals for BMS. And in here is the actual BMS full manual. So this manual covers everything that I'm going to go over in this video rather briefly. This manual covers it in excruciating detail. So if you ever need to know how to do something in much more detail, this manual will show you how to do it in just way more detail than you probably need to know. But everything you'd ever need to know about the F-16 in the game is in this manual if you ever get lost. Alrighty, now we're actually ready to start up the game and create our first pilot and start setting up some of our controls and whatnot. So now we're actually going to launch the game. And when you first start the game and get to your main menu, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make your first pilot profile. And you do that under your logbook. And mine's already filled in with my pilot, but when you guys get in here, you're going to click New to make your first pilot. And then you're going to put in a call sign and a name for the pilot you want, and then you're going to hit Save. And after you've made this pilot, all of your controls and your difficulty settings and like some statistics about your campaigns and whatnot will all save to this logbook. So it's very important that you come in here and create that pilot, name it something, and save it. Okay. And after you've done that, you're actually ready to start setting up some controls. All of that is done under Setup. Under Setup, you have all the options for the difficulty of the game, to graphics that you'll set yourself, sound options, and then under controllers is where you'll find most of your graphic options. Or sorry, not graphic options, control mappings. The first thing you need to map in here is probably your joystick axes for your Y and X axis for pitch and roll in the actual aircraft, and that's under advanced. And if you go under advanced to flight control, you'll find all of these drop down menus where you can map different axes on your joystick or your rudder pedals to whatever you'd like them to be. And the same thing goes here for avionics control. If you've got a mini stick on your joystick, you can also map the mini stick in the F-16 to X and Y axis or whatever axes you want. And by default, I think the game will load up a key file called BMS key file, and it'll have most of the controls you want in here. And as you start playing the game and watching tutorials and you find controls that you want to map to your stick or your keyboard, you'll just find the corresponding control here in this list and click to the left of whatever control you want to set and press the corresponding key on your joystick or keyboard to change that control. And then once you've made a bunch of changes in here that you want to save, you'll hit save, and you can type in your own name for a key file, like my key file. And it's a text document that gets saved in your BMS folder that has all of these options in there saved for you. Okay. I don't really have everyone's sticks a little bit different, so I unfortunately can't tell you everything you need to map right now. So hopefully as you watch this tutorial and other people's tutorials, it'll become clear to you what you need to map on your joystick. Most things in this game have a key command that's actually on the keyboard, so hopefully you'll just start out pressing those keys on the keyboard, and then as you find controls that you want to have more access to, you'll come in here and map those to your stick. But for now, this is everything you need to know about where to go to map your controls once you figure out where you want them to be placed on your stick. Sorry, one more thing that should be noted, I guess, before I get into some of the actual flying tutorials here, is that if I ever say a key command in game, like press TMS left, and you don't know what the heck TMS left is or where it is, you'll come here into setups, into controllers, and you'll look through this list until you find whatever key command I told you to press. So there it is, TMS left, and you'll see that for you, it might be different. It's bound to control left arrow. So again, if I'm ever in a tutorial and I say you need to press TMS up to lock a target and you don't know what that's bound to, you'll come into your controller file here and you'll find it in the controls and you'll just look it up, and then that's what it is bound for you. Because everyone's key files are a little bit different depending on which one you loaded up by default. Alrighty, and with that, we are actually ready to go into the game, the actual game world, and start learning how to start up the aircraft. So how most of the training goes in this game is there actually isn't like a step-by-step training like there is in DCS. There's all of these pre-made tactical engagements under this tactical engagement trainings tab. And these are basically just preset scenarios that will require you to do something. There's not actually like a step-by-step guide that you can read. These are just scenarios that put you into like a pre-made mission where you have to employ something that you're trying to train up on. So for now, we go to tactical engagement training, and we're going to select ramp start, and we're going to commit to start up the ramp start tutorial. And this game map world is what you'll see most of the time when you're flying BMS or planning missions. And here on the left, there'll be a list of all of the flights you can join. Right now there's only one, it's the training flight. And you can select one of the F-16s down here to join that slot, and that's the slot you'll actually fly as when you commit to the game world. And you see here we have a takeoff time of 8 o'clock, and it's 7:30 right now. So what will happen is when we hit takeoff, it'll actually accelerate game time up into our takeoff time. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select this first slot here, it doesn't really matter, and we're going to hit takeoff. And we're going to select ramp start, and what this will do is it will stop the game time 20 minutes before takeoff, and it will give us 20 minutes to start up the aircraft and get onto the runway by our designated takeoff time. If I clicked runway, it would just fast forward, it would do the ramp start for me, and it would just spawn my aircraft on the runway ready to go 1 minute before our designated takeoff time. But for training purposes, we're going to select ramp start. we are in the aircraft, and first you'll notice it's really fucking loud. So if it close your canopy by default, the default command on the keyboard is Control-Shift-C, and that will close your canopy here. Alrighty, and to start up the aircraft, first thing you need to do is you need power to all of your avionics. You're going to come down to your electronics panel here, and you're going to switch this to main power. And while you're down here, you're going to go to your fuel panel, and you're going to make sure this master switch is up, and you're going to set your engine feed to normal. Okay, and then after that, you're going to come down to your right panel here, and you're going to set your air source to normal. And after that's all set, you're going to turn on your jet fuel starter, which is over here in the left panel, and you're going to turn that to start too. And you're going to wait a little bit because this takes a little bit of time to spool up. And you're going to look down here to your RPM gauge, and you're going to wait until this hits about 25. Oh, and one thing I forgot is while you're doing that is you probably want to put your parking brake on to make sure the aircraft doesn't roll away. And it's also courteous when you're starting up your aircraft to turn on your lights, just to let everyone know. And these are all of your lighting panels here. And this little switch here is your master fuel. This will turn all of your lights off or on. And then these are the specific options for your lights. Okay. So that's at about 25. And what you're going to do now is the game's a little bit finicky for some reason, is you're going to put your throttle at about half, and then you're going to hit Alt-I to move it past the throttle detent, is what that does in real life. And because this game's so finicky, you're going to wiggle your throttle around a little bit until you see this RPM jump. It's just, it takes the game a little while to register that that you actually move the throttle past that detent. And as soon as it starts blowing up, you're going to come all the way back to flight idle, otherwise your jet's going to rocket forward away from you. Okay, and now the aircraft engine is started up. We're going to start getting some of our avionics online here. We're going to come down to this right panel, avionics power, and we're going to flip all of these switches to on. And very important, we're going to left click here to turn our IS to norm, because this takes about 8 minutes to align. You want to get that going as fast as possible. Next, while we're here, we're going to turn on some of our sensor power. We're going to turn on our left and right hardpoints. We're going to turn on our radar, and we're going to turn our radar altimeter to standby for now. And then if it was dark, you could also change your lighting down here too, but it's not, so we'll leave all of this to off. Okay, and then you'll come up here to your data entry display, and you'll notice at the top here it says INS 0.5 out of 90. When this reads 8.0 out of 90, it'll start flashing ready, and you're actually ready to go at that point, but it takes about 8 minutes, so we'll work on some other systems while it's starting up. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the HUD. There's a little wheel here that will turn on the brightness of the HUD. You just scroll all the way forward, and there's your HUD. We're going to wait for this bit test to complete before we do anything. And while we're here, we're also going to turn off, arm our ejection seat and get rid of that master caution there. Next, we're going to turn on some of our countermeasures. We're going to come down here to the bottom left. We're going to turn our jammer, RWR on. All of these switches are going to go on. And then we're going to put our mode onto manual and just leave that on program 1 for now. And then while we're down here, we're also going to hit this power button for our RWR and activate our RWR and get that going. And then next we're going to come down back to our left panel here. We're going to turn our TACAN knob here to UFC for upfront controls. We're going to turn on our ECM. We're going to set our radio levels. By default, these audio knobs are all the way down. So these are audio knobs that you can change in game. So if someone's coming over like really loud over radio 2, you can actually lower the volume there. And then we're going to set our radio transmit to both. And don't touch any of this stuff. You can just leave that as is. Okay. And we're not going to actually sit here and wait for 8 minutes. You can actually speed up time in the game by default. You can hit Shift Tab on the keyboard a few times, and up here in the top you'll see this little multiplier number. And you can hit that a couple times all the way up to 64x, and the game world will start whizzing by you at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And as you can see here, we're already at 8 minutes. And then you hit Shift Caps Lock to slow back down to normal game time a bunch of times till you're back at 1x. So now that this is flashing ready, we're going to come down here back to our INS panel, and we're going to left click again to put this to nav. And then once we're on nav, everything should, the ready should flash away, and everything should be good to go. We're going to go ahead and hit return on our Upfront controls to come back to this default menu here. This is what you see most of the time in F16, is just this default Upfront controls that shows your UHF channel and VHF radio channels that you're talking on, and your currently selected steer point. Okay. After that, you also have to load your data cartridge. This is a custom cartridge that you set before flight, and you can actually save it and have it persistent between jets. That's something we'll go over in a little bit later. It's something that has all of your presets on the plane, like which MFDs do what, and your kind of customization options for your jet. But to load it, you will press an MFD button once to select that button where you want it to go, and you'll press it again, and you'll get this page, and you'll select DTE. And here you can see my data cartridge with my ID, Chuck, ramp start, and you'll hit load at the top there. And it'll take a minute to load everything up. Alright, it's loaded, and now you can see it has all of my MFD presets. So in my data cartridge I specified that I want my targeting pod SMS on these positions on the MFD, and that's all stuff we'll go over in a little bit after we're done with the ramp start. And with that, you've successfully ramp started the F-16. You'll notice there in the top left it says chocks in place. To get rid of those, you'll have to press U and talk to the tower and click and press 8 to request him to remove chocks, and then you can actually pull forward and take off. And with that, that is how you ramp start the F-16. Okay, as promised in the last section, before we go any further, now I'm going to teach you how to load up your data cartridge. So before any flight, before you start any flight, here at the map screen, down here in the bottom right, there's a little button labeled Data Cartridge. And if you open this up, this will pull up this little dialog box where you can customize all sorts of things about your aircraft before you start up. Some of the most important things in here are your EWS programs, which are your chaff and flare programs. And you can set these to whatever you want. And if you remember during the startup, there was a little knob that we could switch between four programs on our chaff and flare, our countermeasures panel. And that's where this is where you set what those four programs do. So for example, for me, my first program drops 1 flare and no chaff, and my second program drops 1 chaff and no flare. But you can set these up to be whatever you want. And you can also customize which MFDs are displayed by default, so every time you get in the plane you don't have to load the ones you want up. So there's the 5 different master modes in the plane, and again you can change which MFDs are displaying what by default by changing the primary, secondary, and tertiary boxes here. So for example, when I'm in nav mode, my first MFD will have my radar on the left button, nothing in the middle button, and my terrain following radar on the right button. And my second MFD will have my HSD, TGP, and SMS on those 3 bottoms on the right, and the HSD will be pulled up. That's what this current means, primary. My HSD will be pulled up by default whenever I go into nav mode. And you can also set preset radio channels. You can see these are all by default. I usually don't touch them. I usually set uniform 15, UHF 15 to the tower frequency, and you can just press set tower there, and it'll automatically put your preset uniform 15 channel to the tower out of whatever you're flying out of. So once you've set everything to how you want, you can just hit save and close this out, and you're ready to fly. And next time you load up your data cartridge in game, all of that stuff will be saved, and you only have to do this once. Between every mission, this is saved. Every time you just come in here and you hit load, and it'll load up the last data cartridge you used. Alrighty, now that you know how to use a data cartridge, we're actually going to learn how to take the aircraft off and play around with the upfront controls. So I'm in the takeoff tactical engagement, and we're going to go ahead and select takeoff, and we're going to select runway so the game fast forwards us right towards our takeoff time, and we don't have to sit through and ramp start the aircraft every time. Alright, here we are, ready to take off, and probably first thing you want to do when you're on the center line lined up is you want to turn your nose wheel steering off so you don't accidentally jerk the wheels out from underneath of you whenever you're taking off. And when you're taking off, depending on your loadout, you can either go all the way up to full mill on the throttle, which is just below afterburner, or if it's short runway and you got a heavy payload, you can actually go all the way up to full afterburner. We're going to use full afterburner here for this takeoff since we've got fuel to burn. And you're going to keep on center line, you're going to wait till you get around 160, 170, and that's about when you rotate. And then make sure you get your gear up before you're going 300. If your gear is down when you're going above 300 knots, it's just going to get ripped like clean off, and that's no good. So while we're here, I'll go ahead and point out some things on the HUD. Right now we're in nav mode by default, and this little balloon here represents which way we need to turn to go towards our first nav point. What you do is you put your little flight path marker right here inside, or you put the balloon inside a flight path marker to be flying directly towards your waypoint. You can also hit on the keyboard by default, you can hit S and Shift S to cycle through your waypoints, and you see here on the bottom how it's cycling. Right now this bottom right number is the number of the steer point I've selected, and this number to the left of it is the range to that steer point. So I can hit S a few times to select the third steer point, and it will also put a little diamond on the ground where that steer point is, and it'll give me a range here in the bottom left. Okay. You'll also see here on the HSD, when I hit S and Shift S, it will fill in the steer point I have selected. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit more about the HUD and the upfront controls. An important thing on your HUD, let me actually zoom in here for you. Important thing on your HUD here, this bottom left set of numbers is your bearing and distance to bullseye. So if at any time you need to call out your location to your wingman, you'll call out these two numbers. And what this means is that my bearing from bullseye is 191, and I'm 85 miles away from bullseye. Some other important things here is this number in the top left is your G, and this number here is your Mach number. So right now we're going Mach 0.93. There's your indicated airspeed. This is your radar altitude, and this is your barometric altitude. This AL300 represents the altitude at which Betty will come onto you and say altitude warning, just to prevent you from wrecking into the ground. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the upfront controls here, which is this little block right here. And this is probably the best part of this aircraft is that you'll do everything that you ever need to do through the upfront controls. You switch radio channels and you set frequencies and you do everything through the upfront controls. There's no knobs you have to turn. So for example, let's say I wanted to change my radio channel to the tower frequency. I would press COM1 on the upfront controls, and say in my data cartridge I preset that to channel 15. I would type in 15 and I would hit enter, and now you see that I'm on uniform channel 15, and when I go to talk, or when I press my comm switch for UHF, it'll actually light up which radio I'm talking over, and that's how you switch channels. And the same goes for VHF 9, or sorry, for your VHF radio. You'll hit COM2 and you'll type in either a new radio channel or a preset channel or a whole new radio channel. You can also type in a manual frequency and talk over it that way. I'll level out here so we don't get too high. Okay, some other important things. Changing TACAN channel for finding tankers in the air is done by pressing 1, and you see it's labeled TILS. And let's say there was a tanker on channel 11. I would type in 11 on the upfront controls and I would hit enter. And then if it was on Yankee, I would hit 0 and then enter to change it to Yankee. And you can just hit 0 and enter to switch between those. And at the same token, I can press sequence to change whether or not it's an airborne TACAN, AA, or it's a ground-based TACAN, TR. And the same goes for changing my frequency for ILS landings, if that's something you also want to do. And any time with the upfront controls, if you need to go back to that default page, you just hit return. If you get confused or you're messing up, you just hit return a bunch of times, and you'll come back to this default page here. Next thing you can change the upfront controls is allow here. This will change the altitude at which Betty yells at. So let's say I want Betty to yell at me at 500 feet. I can type in 500 feet and put that in. And you'll notice on the top right of my HUD, it now says allow 500, which means that Betty will yell at me when I get 500 feet off the deck. At the same time, I can also scroll down using these two keys on the upfront controls. Click over here. To move up or down on the data entry display. And I can also change another altitude warning that Betty will also yell at me at 10,000 feet. Let's say I wanted her to yell at me at 5,000. I would just type in 5,000 feet and I would hit enter. And then to go back to the main screen, I just hit return on the upfront controls. Okay. Next thing you can change is if you don't want to hit S or Shift S to cycle between steer points, you can just hit 4 on the upfront controls and type in a steer point manually. So let's say I just want to go straight to steer point 5. I'll just hit 5, enter. And then now I have steer point 5 selected. Okay. Next important thing is this cruise button here. As people say, the F-16's got short legs, but it really doesn't if you know how to manipulate this cruise page and fly around at optimal settings. So this data entry display, or the F-16 itself, will actually calculate everything you need to know to fly the F-16 in the most fuel-efficient manner. So if you hit sequence, you'll cycle between all of these different pages, which will give you all sorts of different fuel information. So the most important one, I feel like, is the range page, and that will tell you how much fuel you've got left at your current flight settings when you get to this steer point. So you can see if I go up to full afterburner, this number will go way down, and it'll tell me that I only have 1,800 pounds of fuel when I get to nav 5. At the same token, if I cycle through these pages, there's different information here. If I go to the home page, it will show me the optimum altitude I need to fly at to save the most fuel. And if I go to the EDR page, it will also tell me the optimum Mach speed that I need to fly at to save the most fuel. At the same time, I can also hit M-select or 0 to highlight this number, and or highlight this range. And if I highlight any of these pages, it will draw, it'll put a little caret on my HUD of where that optimum speed I need to hold is, so I don't have to keep referencing the data entry display. I can just look straight at my HUD and know what speed I need to fly to save the most fuel. So that's pretty important in the F-16 if you're really deep and you want to know if you're going to make it home with enough fuel. Again, hit return to go back to the main page. Next important thing is if you go to list, you'll get all of these options to go to pages that aren't like hotkeyed on your upfront controls. The most important of which being this bingo page. It's labeled by 2, so if I hit 2, I can set the bingo at which Betty will give me a fuel warning. So say I don't like 2,500 pounds, I want Betty to yell at me when I have 1,500 pounds of fuel. I'll type in 1,500 and I'll hit enter. And Betty will give me a fuel warning and call bingo when I have 1,500 pounds of fuel left. And again, I can change that just by typing in any number I want and then hitting enter. Okay, and with that, that's the quick and dirty of the most important functions of the upfront controls. And next we'll actually go over some of our air-to-air and air-to-ground master modes. Alrighty, I taught you how to take the aircraft off, so I guess I gotta teach you how to land it. Here we are on final to our runway here, and make sure when you're coming in on final that you get under 300 knots before you drop that gear, otherwise it'll get ripped off. And as you can see, this aircraft's really hard to slow down. We're all the way out at flight idle, and it's not coming down any slower. So as soon as you're under 300 knots, go ahead and drop the gear. And the flaps are automatic. It also dropped the flaps for us, so that'll start slowing us way down. And you want to hold about 200 knots on your way in. And the HUD changes when you put the gear down. One of the most important things that changes is you get this little dashed line here that represents 3 degrees. And that is your optimum glide slope for the way in. So if you put that dotted line right over the 1,000 footers for the markers for the runway, and you line your flight path marker up with that, you'll be perfectly on glide slope all the way in for the runway. So when you get a little bit closer, start slowing down, coming down to 180. You want to aim to touch the aircraft down at about 160 is the optimum speed. And as soon as you get over the threshold of the runway and you're sure you're going to make it, go ahead and put the flight path marker towards the horizon and pull the throttle out and just let it gently set itself down. Okay, And if I let go of the stick right now, my plane will actually keep its nose in the air, and it will aero brake all the way down the end of the runway. But just be careful, if the runway isn't long enough for an aero brake, it's a really short runway, you really got to get on those wheel brakes soon to drop the nose down out of the air and hold them until you're all the way stopped, otherwise you're going to skid right off the end of the runway. And with that, that is the quick and dirty of how you land the F-16. Alrighty, now that you know how to take off and land, we're actually ready to get into some combat here. And the first thing we're going to talk about is air-to-air combat, and more specifically, the radar. So the radar is a little bit confusing if you've never played like a flight sim before that has some radar in it. Basically, the F-16's radar scans in a big cone out in front of it and can only scan so much area at one time. And to help illustrate this, I have wonderfully drawn up a demonstration here in Microsoft Paint. So here in the bottom right, we have a little picture of the MFD with the radar screen as it would look in game. And then here we have a diagram of what's actually going on in real life with your actual F-16 being represented by this picture of an F-16 and enemy fighters or just aircraft being represented by these red squares. So if you look at the radar in game, the first thing that you need to know is that this view right here is a top-down view of what's going on. This number here on the left is the scale. You can change the scale in game, I think, by pressing F3 and 4. F3 and F4 are the default keys on the keyboard. And what that means is that the top of this MFD here is 20 miles. The middle of this MFD represents targets that are 10 miles away. And if you see a square at the bottom, it's right on top of you. And these little white squares here are, of course, aircraft. And you'll have a little cursor that you can slew around that's 2 white vertical bars. And to the right of that cursor, there'll be 2 numbers, a white one on top and a blue one on the bottom. And that represents how high and how low your radar is scanning. So this 20 at the top means that my radar is scanning up to 20,000 feet, and this blue number at the bottom means it's scanning all the way down to 9,000 feet. So if there was a guy below 9,000 feet, and in front of me, I wouldn't be able to see him. Now remember that that is only wherever your cursor is. So if I moved this cursor closer to me so that it was displaying targets right here at 5 nautical miles, it might only be showing targets from like 10,000 feet down to 4,000 feet. So just keep that in mind that as aircraft get closer to you, you're scanning a smaller cone in front of you. And aircraft that are farther away, you can scan a wider section of the sky. Okay, there's the last couple numbers here you need to know about. Here is this A6 and this 4B. The A6 there changes how wide you're scanning left right, and if you hit F8 by default on the keyboard, you'll actually narrow your scan down. You'll get 2 bars on the left and right, and you can cycle between A6, A3, and A1, and it will change how wide you're scanning. At the same time, this 4B means that your radar is making 4 sweeps of the sky. So it'll make 1 sweep of the sky from left to right at this altitude, and then it'll transition down and it'll make another sweep of the sky at this altitude. And then it'll come down and make another sweep of the sky at this altitude, and then it'll come down one more and make a sweep of the sky at this altitude before resetting back up to the top and scanning all the way down. You can change this to 2B or 1B, and it will change from scanning 4 different areas to just 1 area. So you could narrow how high your radar is scanning. Instead of scanning it from 20,000 feet to 9,000 feet, you could tell it to only scan at, say, 20,000 feet by changing this to 1B. And then these numbers on the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, if you press the MFD button next to them, it will actually put a 1, 2, 3, or 4 over the target that you selected, and it will data link it to all of your flight mates if you've got that going. And with that, that's the quick and dirty of how radar works in the air. It's a little bit confusing, but hopefully it'll become a little more clear as we actually get in the game and show it to you. Alrighty, now that you know a little bit about the how the radar works, we're actually ready to load up the air-to-air radar mode's tactical engagement and play the radar and actually shoot some missiles. So we're going to go ahead and commit here. And just a word of warning, things happen kind of fast because these aircraft are actually closing at us pretty fast, so I'll just pause and unpause the mission kind of quickly to demonstrate something to you before unpausing it. So we're going to go ahead and pause the mission right now real quick. And if we'll come down here and look at our radar, our FCR, you'll see that we've got 4 little boxes, little squares here, and those are all aircraft returns that our radar has gotten. Let's say we wanted to lock this guy here that's at 20,000 feet, and we know that he's at 20,000 feet because when we move our cursor over to touch him, it will show you, it'll pop up his range in white text just below the square. So to lock a target, all you do is move this cursor over the target that you want to lock, and you hit TMS up once. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick and then repause. Okay, so when we hit TMS up once, we do what we're calling soft locking the guy, which means that we're not devoting all of our radar's energy to locking him. We're actually using some of the energy to lock him and some of the energy to continue to scan for targets around him. So I can see the guy here I'm locking at 20,000 feet because he's got a little yellow circle around him, but I can also see white squares of targets that are around him because my radar is still scanning. I'll get some information about the target too when I lock him up. The most important of which is his altitude there at 20,000, and also there's a little yellow line that shows his direction of travel. And the longer that line is, the faster he's going. So if he's got a really short line, it means he's going really slow. There's also a couple numbers here at the top. This number here in the top left, 170, means it's his current heading. He's heading 170. This number in the top right is his speed. He's going 345 knots. This number right here, this 826K with a plus, means we're closing at 826 knots. If that was a minus instead of a plus, it would mean that he was going away from us at 826 knots. Or we were losing speed to him at 826 knots. These 2 white numbers here in the bottom left represent his bullseye location. So this target is currently from bullseye bearing 143, and it's 76 miles away from bullseye. And then these blue numbers here in the bottom left are my bearing and distance from bullseye. Okay, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and press TMS up one more time while selecting it, while our cursor's over him, and this will hard lock him. Okay, so now that we're hard locking him, all of our radar energy is going towards tracking this one target. And as a result, we can't see any of the other targets around him, but all of our radar is going towards keeping track of this one guy. So there's the least amount of chance that we're going to lose the lock. And we're actually ready to fire a missile at him right now, but there's a couple things that we got to do before that. First thing you notice is that we're actually in nav mode here, and we can't fire missiles in nav mode. You got to put the aircraft into air-to-air mode. So one of the ways you can do that is you can hit air-to-air on the upfront controls, or you can hit enter on the keyboard, which is the key command to cycle between which kind of missiles you're going to fire. So right now we have 4 AMRAAMs and 2 Sidewinders, and if I hit enter on the keyboard, it would cycle between whether or not I was going to shoot an AMRAAM or a Sidewinder at him. So I'm going to go ahead and unpause and hit enter to select AMRAAMs. Okay, so now I've got some different symbols here in my HUD, and you'll notice that my HUD has changed. Instead of nav mode, it says 4 MRM, which means I've got 4 medium range missiles or AMRAAMs left. And then also my master arm is on, is what this arm means, because your master arm has to be on before you can fire missiles. We also get some new symbology here on the right and in the middle of the HUD, which is also replicated here on your radar. And I'm just going to talk through what this symbology means here. So on the right here, this is basically the range to the target, but it's the range to the target, and it also indicates the % chance that your missile is going to hit the target if you fired it right now. So this caret here on the left with the 854 and the 3F will move up and down this scale here on the right depending on the distance. If he's really far away, the caret would be way up here towards the top. And this 854 is just his closure speed again, and this 3F represents his range from us again. So Here on the right, we'll just start at the top here. This little triangle here at the top represents the maximum range I can fire the missile at. So if this caret is above the triangle here, I can't fire the missile. If this caret is in line with this circle right here, it means I can fire the missile, and if he doesn't maneuver at all, the missile will just barely make it there. If this caret comes down into this region with a solid line, it means that I have like a 60-70% chance of the missile hitting. He could probably still turn around and use full afterburner to outrun the missile. And if the caret gets all the way down into this solid box region, it means there's a guaranteed kill. That means that that guy can't do anything. He can't, even if he turned around and used full afterburner, he couldn't outrun the missile. The missile is always going to hit. And then the circle here that's flashing right now represents our shoot window. So if this little circle right here represents where we need to put our nose to have a shoot window. So if this circle comes way outside of the big circle, it means that my nose is pointing away from the guy or something, and I can't fire the missile and have it turn around. So if I center the dot, which means I put this little circle right in the middle of this big circle, it means that my missile won't have to turn at all to reach the target. If this little circle is way out here towards the edge, the missile might have to do like a really high G turn to get off my plane and hit the guy. So as a rule of thumb, you always want to center the dot before you fire the missile. Alright, and with that, we're actually ready to fire the missile. So we're going to unpause, and we're going to hold our weapon release button until the missile fires. And the call for an AMRAAM is Fox 3. And you'll notice that when my guy called Pitbull in the top left, and that means that the missile has started using its own guidance. And there's a splash. And in case you didn't notice, it draws a square over your target, and if it's off your HUD, it will draw a line towards that target wherever it is. Okay, and the same thing goes for Sidewinders. If I hit enter to select short range missiles, I'll get the same range cues and everything as I did for the AMRAAM. You'll just notice that it's a much shorter range missile. So again, I see this caret moving down on the bottom right side of the screen, and it's usually a good idea to wait until it gets into this line region here before I fire the missile. And same thing with the Sidewinder, you just lock them up, wait till you've got a good shot, and then you hold the missile release weapon to fire the missile. And the call for a Sidewinder is Fox 2. And this might not hit because, as you notice, we shot a little bit beyond range. There you go, it still hit. And with that, that's all you need to know to use missiles, to guide missiles using the radar in a BVR situation. And next we'll talk about dogfight mode. Alrighty, so here we are, and let's say everything goes south and you're out of missiles, and now it's time to guns fight with someone. So now we're going to talk you through dogfight mode. So right now we're still in air-to-air mode, and we have enemy F-14 Tomcat logged up that we're going to start dogfighting here. And what happens when I unpause is I'm going to put the plane in dogfight mode, and by default you press D to go into dogfight mode, and you hit C to cancel that or get out of dogfight mode and go back to nav or air-to-air or whatever you were in last. And I'll sort of talk you through what you need to do when you're dogfighting and some of the symbology, but as a rule of thumb, the F-16 dogfights at a very fast speed, so you want to try and hold about 400 knots whenever you're turning, and that will get you your maximum turn rate. So we're going to go ahead and hit D and go into dogfight mode, and you'll see our HUD gets super clean here. And also, one thing I also forgot is when you're dogfighting is you can hit Shift Insert a couple times to turn on your helmet sight.
Altitude.
And when you're dogfighting with someone, you can hold TMS up long to get a little circle, and if you move the circle over the enemy plane, it will lock him. And again, always try and hold 400 for your best turn rate. We're coming around, we'll try and pull the trigger here, not that time. So again, very important, you don't let yourself get too slow. You always want to hold 400 knots in the F-16, and you can see that's your speed there in the top left. and unfortunately my foe has just wrecked into the ground. But regardless, the same principles still apply whenever you're fighting stupid F-14s or actual MiG-29s. The F-16 dogfights fast, so no matter what you do, you want to hold about 400 knots. I see a lot of pilots, online that pull as far back on the stick as they can, but you don't want to do that. You want to hold 400 knots as the magic number in the F-16 to get your maximum turn rate. And if you're getting too slow, just let off the turn and get back up to speed. It'll help you out in the long run. And while we're here, we might as well talk about some symbology that I was going to talk about when I fired my gun at that guy, but he killed himself for me. This is the holy thing that you need to know in dogfight mode. This cross right here is your gun cross. That's where your bullets are going to go if you pull the trigger. And this gun funnel here at the bottom will move with the funnel, and it's there to help you sort of predict or line up where your shots are going to go. But honestly, I don't use most of that stuff. I just use my gun cross, and when I get close enough, just put your gun cross a little bit in front of the aircraft you're trying to kill and pull the trigger and walk your targets on. If the tracers are going behind him, just pull back a little bit more until they're going in front of him, and don't let all of this symbology kind of get in the way of you. Just watch where your tracers are going and walk the tracers onto the target. And that's about the best advice I can give for quick and dirty dogfighting. Again, it takes a lot of practice to get good at it. And remember, to get out of dogfight mode, you just hit C in the keyboard, and you'll go back to whatever mode you were in last. And with that, that's the quick and dirty of dogfight mode. And I assure you, most of your targets will not wreck themselves into the ground for you. Stupid. Alright, now that we're done with air-to-air, we're actually going to go learn how to drop laser-guided bombs on targets. We're going to start with our air-to-ground now. And just note, for now, we're not going to worry about the air-to-ground radar. We're just going to go over how to use a targeting pod and drop laser-guided bombs. Okay, so first thing we need to do here is the target area is at 0.5, so we're going to hit S to select that. And we also need to get out of nav mode and into air-to-ground mode. So we're going to hit backspace, which is the default key to cycle hardpoints between what kind of air-to-ground weapon you're going to drop. And again, by default, here it'll pull up the FCR, which is now in air-to-ground mode. We're not going to worry about any of this right now. We're just going to hit CZ to center it on steer 0.5. And by default, my targeting pod will slew to my radar. So if my radar is in steer 0.5, my targeting pod is as well. So now we're going to turn on our targeting pod. We're going to press the targeting pod button. I'm going to click standby, and then we're going to go to air-to-ground. And now I'm going to hit DMS down to make my targeting pod sensor of interest, and I'm going to hit TMS up once to put it in area mode, and now I can slew it around. And then you'll slew it around and you'll find a target, and you can press the sensor of interest field of view cycle to zoom in a little bit, and let's find a target here. Let's say what's going to drop on these F4 Phantoms over here. Okay. And now, before we start the attack, we want to make sure that our master arm and our laser arm is also on, since we're dropping laser-guided bombs. And we'll see this vertical line here, which is where I need to fly my aircraft to get this drop. I want this vertical line to be lined up perfectly with my flight path marker for a good drop. And here in the bottom right, we'll see our distance to target here, and then the number above that is our time to first drop. This first number we see, 20 seconds, is the countdown timer to lobbing the bomb. So in 15 seconds, if we wanted, we could press the weapon release button while pulling the nose back, and we would actually lob the bomb. But we don't want to do that. We're going to wait for this to pass, and then we'll get a second time. You can see this time's counting down. And we let that window pass because we're not going to lob the bomb. And now there's 20 seconds to normal release, and you can see this little line coming down at us. When this line is even with our flight path marker, that's when we're going to drop the bomb. So about 5 seconds before, we're going to hold our weapon release button. Hold it down, don't release it. And as soon as that line meets our flight path marker, the bomb will drop. And there it is, paveway. And now we can release. So now we're going to go back down to our targeting pod, and we're going to make sure that we keep our targeting pod on the target. It doesn't stray anywhere. If it's a tank, we're going to track it. And about 6 seconds before the bomb hits, that little L in the bottom right will start flashing, and that means our laser's on. And it'll automatically turn the laser on for you. You don't have to worry about any of that. And there it is, target destroyed. And the laser will stay on for a little bit after, just to make sure the bomb finds its target. And with that, that is the quick and dirty of dropping laser-guided bombs. Alright, now that we went over LGBs, we're actually ready to learn how to use HARMs, which are an anti-radiation missile used to attack enemy surface-to-air missile sites. Okay, first thing you gotta do when you get here into the plane is you'll notice that we're in nav mode again. So we need to hit backspace to go into air-to-ground mode and select HARMs. And HARMs are also a missile that you have to activate. You have to turn them on. So we're going to come down here to our SMS page, and with HARMs selected there, so you have 4 AGM-88s, which are HARMs, we're going to hit the power on button, and then now they're turned on. Then we're going to come down here to our left MFD, and we're going to pull up our HAD. And again, if these aren't on the bottom of your MFDs, you can press any one of these bottom 3 MFD buttons, and then replace it with the proper MFD screen. So we're going to put the HAD up here. So looking here at the HAD, these yellow and green numbers and letters represent different radar emission sites that we found. So this 2 represents an SA2 site, this 3 is an SA3 site, this U is an unknown site, and these S's are searches. And this green means that it's not actively emitting, but our HAD remembers that there was something there. And if any of these numbers are red, it means that they're shooting at someone. They're putting out an unusually high amount of radiation. So let's say we want to kill this SA3 site over here. We're going to make our HAD our SOE by using DMS down, and then we're going to slew our cursor over it, and we're going to hit TMS up to lock it up, and there'll be a little square over it. Now on our HUD, we're going to turn into the target, which is indicated by this line coming off our gun cross. And just like the AMRAM, this caret here on the right represents our range. And once this caret is inside this box, or this circle is flashing, we have a good shoot and we can fire the missile. So we're going to go ahead and fire the missile now. And the call for shooting a HARM is a Magnum, and that's fire and forget. If I wanted to, I could totally turn around and run away now. But the missile's on its merry way and I don't have to do anything else. But just be advised that SAM sites are kind of smart sometimes. If you turn around and run, they might turn their radar off so that that the missile won't hit because they don't have any chance of shooting missiles at you. So sometimes it's a good idea to keep flying towards the target, but again, you don't have to. Once you fired the missile, it's fire and forget and it's on its merry way and it's going to hit the target. And with that, that's all you need to know about HARMs. Alright, now you know how to use HARMs and laser-guided bombs. Now we're going to go over how using dumb bombs. And it doesn't sound like you're ever going to want to use dumb bombs on a fancy F-16, but dumb bombs are actually how you the same way. The way you drop dumb bombs is the same way you drop runway bombs for attacking runways. So it's still important to know how to use these modes. So we're going to go over how to drop iron bombs in CCIP mode. So again, we're in nav mode, and we need to get into air-to-ground mode. So we're going to hit backspace to select our to smash this into air-to-ground mode, and we're going to come down here to our SMS page. And you can see in the top right there, this is the kind of weapon we have selected. So if we hit backspace, we can cycle between our two different kinds of bombs. We're going to practice with the BD-33s, which are just it's a dumb bomb without an explosive in it. And you'll notice here I've got all these options about the bomb. I can set whether I want to drop a single or a pair, and how many I want to ripple. I can enter I can drop 1 bomb, or I can drop 3 bombs. But for now, we're just going to we're just going to ripple 1 bomb off. Okay, and if I want to change it from CCRP to CCIP, I'm just going to hit this top MFD button and select CCIP. And now, you'll see that I've got some different symbols here in my HUD, and I got this big old line coming from my flight path marker down to this little circle here, and that's where my bomb is going to hit when I press the weapon release button. So it's as simple as putting this little circle over whatever I want to drop the bomb on, and pressing the weapon release button. So we're going to go ahead and drop on those 4 targets there in the middle. And just put the circle over it and hit the button. And the F-16 actually uses its radar to calculate CCIP solutions, so CCIP bomb drops in F-16 are actually really accurate, as you can see. So again, it's as easy as just putting the little circle over whatever you want to die, and just press the weapon release button to drop however many bombs you want. And with that, that's everything you need to know about CCIP. Alright, the last air-to-ground weapon we're going to go over today is the Maverick, the air-to-ground Maverick. We'll also go over a little bit of the radar modes here, because this missile takes a while to spool up here. So it takes about 3 minutes to align the weapon. So first thing we're going to do is we're in nav mode again, so we're going to hit backspace to get into air-to-ground, and we're going to start spooling up our Mavericks. So we're going to go to our SMS page, and we're going to hit power on, and make sure that power on is for both of our Maverick sets, both our Ds and our Bs. And then if you go back over here to your left MFD, both on your FCR and your weapon page, you'll see a countdown timer here in the bottom left that shows you approximately how much time is remaining for the missile to be ready to use. So we got about 2 minutes. So for those 2 minutes, I'll kind of briefly walk over the air-to-ground radar. So by default, when you go into air-to-ground mode, you'll get this FCR page, which is GM mode. That's what this top left here means, and that's this radar is returning only stationary targets. So all of these white little specks here on the radar, those are stationary targets that I have returned. So most of the time, they're just buildings. But if you see like a long straight line like you do right there, that usually means it's an enemy column like stopped and parked. The radar has one more little trick up its sleeve. If you hit that top left button where it says GM, and you select GMT, this is now ground moving target mode, and now my radar is only returning things that are moving. So that means vehicles. So now everything that shows up on this radar screen is something that's moving. So if I see a big old white speck or line, I know that it's a column of targets, because I know that anything that I show up now on this screen is moving. So I'm going to put that back in GM for now. And if we go and look at our window, we'll see there's actually a big old armor battle going on down there. But unfortunately, our Mavericks aren't quite yet ready to, aren't quite ready yet. So we're gonna have to loop a little bit to wait for those to get spooled up the rest of the way. Alrighty, so here we are again with our Mavericks all spooled up, and by default, the Maverick is in pre-mode. But I actually like to put it into visual mode, and you just press this button to cycle through different kinds, and I like to put it in visual mode. And what that does is it actually puts up a little square here on your HUD that you can slew around to move over the target area. But before you can see an image on your Maverick, you have to uncage it, which is U by default on the keyboard. And now you actually get an image in your Maverick seeker head that you can use. So once you've kind of oriented yourself with the target, just move the crosshairs over the target you want to engage and hit TMS up. And once you hit TMS up and you've got a good lock, the cross here will stop flashing. And once this caret is inside of this bracket here on the right, you're in range, and you can go ahead and hit the weapon release button to fire the Maverick. And every time you fire Maverick, you have to uncage the next one to be able to see the seeker head. So every time you fire Maverick, you hit that uncage button to fire another one. And with that, that is everything you need to know about firing Mavericks. Alrighty, there is one last thing I want to show you guys before I turn you loose, and that's how to play online with friends. So if a friend of yours has BMS and he wants to host a game, you come up here to your comms, and you'll create a new entry for him, and you'll name this entry in your logbook whatever you want, and then you have to type in the IP address to his server, whatever it happens to be, like so. And then you also have to specify a connection bandwidth. So this will actually tell BMS how much of your upload speed to use. So if you've only got like a 1 megabit per second upload internet connection, you might want to put in like 800 megabits in here so that BMS isn't using all of your upload. Because if you leave this blank, it will use the max amount of upload, and then everything else will start lagging. It's kind of finicky. There's no safeguards on it. At the same time, if you want to host a game for a friend, you'll also come into this comms, and instead of putting in an IP address, you'll put in all zeros in here. And then in this connection bandwidth will be how much of your upload you want to have available for other people to use on your server. So if you've got a 10 megabit per second upload, you might want to set this to 9,000 or something, and that will use 9,000 or that will use 9 megabits of your upload speed for hosting. Because again, if you don't put anything in here, it's going to use all of your upload speed for just one person who connects to your server, and everything is going to start lagging. And if you want to host an IVC server, which is the in-game VoIP, you can just check these boxes, and for the dedicated IVC server, you'll put in the same IP you do for when you're connecting to your friend's server. And once you're connected, you'll if he made a campaign, you'll come to campaign and you'll come to the online tab. And if you're not already connected, it'll just bring up this comms page again, and then you'll see your friend's campaign here under this online tab. Alternatively, if he starts a dogfight, you have to go to dogfight and click the online tab, and he'll make games under these tabs for you to join. And with that, that's everything you need to know about joining an online game. Alright, that concludes the weapons portion of this tutorial. By now you should know how to use all the weapons in the F-16. Now I'm going to show you how to start and some of the ins and outs of starting your first campaign in this game. So we're going to go up here and we're select campaign. And then there's 3 different campaigns you can play. This top one is a blue 4 advantage, this middle one's neutral, and the bottom one's an op 4 advantage. Let's just going to play this middle one, rolling fire. And you're going to select a squadron you want to fly out of. We're going to pick the 36, make sure it's got F-16s, and we'll hit commit. And it'll first ask you the mission priorities that you want to set, but by default I just let this be set by HQ. And then you'll go ahead and click start campaign. And within a couple of seconds here, the Blue 4 commander should automatically give you some missions for your squadron. And you can select any mission you want to fly assigned by the commander. Let's say I want to fly as bar cap. Or we'll take this other one here at 543. Let's say I want to fly as bar cap. All I have to do to fly in this bar cap is I'll select the role I want to fly, and here I'll take flight lead. And before I go out, I can set some data cartridge options. Remember, here in your data cartridge you can set your chaff and flare programs as well as your MFDs. It's important here to always remember to set your tower frequency to something. I always set the tower to uniform 15 is what I always do. You can just come here to preset number 15 on your UHF radio and hit set tower, and it'll automatically change that frequency to the tower. There's a couple other things you can do with your data cartridge. You can draw lines that will show up on your map in game, and how you do that is you right click anywhere on the map and you come down here to steer point lines, and you can draw up to 4 different lines. So go ahead and add an additional steer point in line 1, and you can keep adding points to this line until you've drawn the shape that you want. So I always like to draw the DMZ, so I know whether or not I'm north or south, whether I'm in enemy or friendly territory. And let's say during this next mission I'm flying out here and I find an SA-2 site over here on the coast. I can also add a pre-planned threat steer point by right-clicking the map and going to set pre-planned threat steer point. And it'll be a little green diamond, and I can move it around and put it wherever I thought the site was. And then I can double-click on it and select what kind of site it was. Say I found a SA-2 site out there. You can select SA-2, and you can also change which steer point it is in your aircraft. So I can say that steer point 56 is the SA-2 site, and I know to steer clear of there. And once I've changed all that, I'll hit accept. And you'll see it'll draw a red circle in game as well as in this map, just letting me know if there's an SA-2 site there, and that's its engagement range. Next thing before I go out is to set my loadout. So I'll come down here to my loadout, and I have my plane and my wingman here, and I can change both of our loadouts or just myself or the other, depending on which one I have highlighted. So in here under the loadout screen you have all of the possible munitions you could take, and to load on your aircraft you just find this corresponding pylon and load it up. And I like to take all AMRAAMs by default. My My philosophy is that you've got your gun for anything that gets close to you, and I always think 6 AMRAMs is better to take than 4 AMRAMs and 2 Sidewinders, anything like that. And it's a good idea to always take the jammer there. That's under all, and it's the ALQ 184. And since we're don't need anything on those inner pylons, we can't carry missiles there, I go and take a couple of field bags. And just because I always get into a habit of always taking the targeting pod and the HTS. Those are always good habits to get into, is just to always take those, because you never know. And you'll hit OK when you're done with that. And just good habit is make sure you click save on your data cartridge before you fly. And with that, you're actually ready to go into the game world and fly your sortie. So we'll go ahead and click takeoff. And we'll select runway, so unless you want to ramp start. You know, if you really like ramp starting the jet, you can select ramp start every time, and it'll give you 20 minutes to your takeoff time to ramp start the aircraft. But for now, we're just going to click runway. If you don't want to sit at the screen, you can watch what's going on in the campaign. But just you can speed up the time to 64x here in the game screen, but just make sure that you don't go past your takeoff time, which is 5:43 for us. And this just gives you a little bit better idea of what you're going up against. So we're going to go ahead and recommit takeoff so everybody's by our time here. And we'll take off and we'll fly our sortie. Okay, so here we are flying our sortie. And there's just a few more things I want to show you guys before I set you loose. As you'll notice here on my HSD, here's the line I drew for the DMZ. And there's that SA2 site that I set. And this little circle right here, that's the bullseye. So when you get into game, you're going to be talking to AWACS a lot. And how you get to talk to AWACS is you press Q to bring up this menu. And what you're going to do most of the time is you're going to hit Q twice to cycle to the second menu, and you're going to press 1 to request a vector to threat. And this is just how you keep your situation awareness of what's going on. So she told us that there's MiG-21s at bullseye 235 at 15. So how we figure out where that is if we make our HSD our sensor of interest by hitting DMS down, we can move a little cursor around that will tell us, and you see in the bottom left here, this is the bullseye location of this cursor. So I can just move this around until it says 235 for 15.
You are cleared for takeoff. Runway 09er.
For 15.
Falcon 7-1 on final.
Okay, so more or less those MiGs are somewhere to our left, close to bullseye. And anytime we ask AWACS, that's how we're going to figure out, where the enemy bandits are. And since we're flying a bar cap, it's our job to get out here and take down enemy bandits. So I'm going to go ahead and go to air-to-air mode by hitting enter. I'm going to turn my master mode on. I'm going to turn my master arm on there. And I'm going to turn my radar to start looking out towards bullseye, where AWACS called those MiGs as being from. Now, if you look at the FCR, you'll notice I see a bunch of yellow carrots here. And what that means is that that's person has their ECM on, which means they're jamming my radar and I can't get a good range on them. But as I get closer, that'll eventually go away and I'll get a good lock on the target. So let's say there are friendlies in the area. So let's say I have a radar return on this guy right here, but I have no idea whether or not he's friendly. I can pull up the AWACS menu again, and I can press Q and then 2 and ask for a declare. And AWACS will come back and tell me whether or not the target I'm locking is friendly or enemy. And if she's got enough information, she'll actually tell me what type of aircraft it is. If your AWACS is down or destroyed or whatever, you can also pull up your targeting pod here and click standby and put it in air-to-air mode. And the sky is too far away, but your targeting pod will look at whatever you're locking. So I locked up this F-16 over here, and I can look at my targeting pod and I can tell, oh, that's an F-16. And my targeting pod will automatically slew to whatever I've locked on my FCR, and that's a much faster way of identifying targets. So if I was to lock something and I saw a MiG-29 in my targeting pod, I'd obviously know it's friendly, enemy, and I wouldn't have to ask AWACS for that declare, because you can get pretty backed up sometimes. Okay, and the last thing you need to know that I forgot about a long time ago was putting your aircraft in Cat 3 or Cat 1 stores config. This basically, in Cat 3, your aircraft is limited to how many Gs it can pull, because we're carrying big fuel bags, and if we pulled too many Gs, we'd rip them right off. But if I dump my fuel bags, let's say I do an emergency storage jettison, which dumps everything that isn't an air-to-air weapon, and now all I've got is AMRAAMs, I'll get a master caution telling me that I'm not in Cat 1, which means that I'm in the wrong stores config. So I can put myself into Cat 1 now, and this master caution will go away, and that now means that my aircraft is unlimited in its Gs. I can pull the maximum possible Gs that my aircraft can sustain. Whereas when I'm Cat 3, my aircraft automatically limits itself, so it doesn't pull more Gs than my ordnance can sustain. So just be sure whenever you dump all of your air-to-ground ordnance to go back to Cat 1. And alternatively, if you have air-to-ground ordnance, make sure you're in Cat 3, otherwise you're going to break something. And with that, that concludes my tutorial on Falcon BMS. And hopefully you know everything you need to get started with this game. Again, you can personal message me if you have any questions. And again, the best way to start learning this stuff is just to go run a campaign or do tactical engagements and just start flying the aircraft. And as you go on, you'll learn what needs to be mapped to what, and you'll start getting the hang of it. And again, best of luck in your future F-16 endeavors. Thank you.